Okay, so I have Mayor of Brampton, Mr. Patrick Brown, with me online right now. I have already announced that he will be our guest today. Yesterday he was busy in a council's meeting. So our Premier, Doug Ford, yesterday announced that Toronto's mayor will have greater powers, and this will be considered as strong mayor. So two cities' mayors will be first of all given these special powers, and the reason behind this is that there is a lot of red tapeism, delay, bureaucratic delay, whatever we can say, when developers or builders want to construct more and more houses, which is a dire need at this moment. So how this is going to work, we are not much aware of that. But Mayor Brown is with me at this time, so I will ask him. Mayor Brown, welcome to Parvasi and good morning.
Well, always great to be on Parvasi with you, Rajinder. And let me say, I commend the Premier for the changes he's embarking upon. You know, one thing that Doug Ford has as an advantage is he spent time in municipal politics. He was a city councillor himself. His brother was the mayor of Toronto, so he understands how the municipal system has challenges. And right now in Ontario, it's not like the U.S. or Europe where the mayors have a much larger influence. In Ontario, the mayor is one vote around the table. And so you could have the mayor elected by 1 million people and a councillor elected by 50,000 people, and their vote is the same. And you know, the reality is residents in a city elect a mayor to implement an agenda. And some of the laws right now in Ontario diminish the mayor's ability to implement their agenda. And so I think the changes that the Premier brought forward are long overdue. I support them. I spoke to the Premier about it yesterday, and I spoke to him about it a few weeks ago, and I thought he's going in the right direction. It will allow us to do more work municipally without some of the bureaucracy.
Okay, and Mayor Brown, right now Toronto has hardly any land left. Maybe he's trying for this for multi-story buildings. The power will be given to Mayor John Tory. But what about the suburbs or city like Brampton or Barrie or Brantford, all those suburbs where the lots of construction is going on and builders are waiting for the permits, many such permissions for a long time?
Well, and you know, having spoken to the Premier, he told me his plan is to roll it out to the other big cities very shortly thereafter. So I think you're going to see the rollout happen in Toronto and Ottawa first, and then 6 months or a year later, it'll be rolled out to the other big cities like Brampton, Mississauga, Hamilton. And by the way, it's not just residential housing construction that gets delayed sometimes in red tape. I look at economic development projects. I look at major job growth, and that's where I think some of this could be helpful. If we have a major investment that wants to come into our city, it will be helpful to be able to expedite investment.
We don't have enough details about this concept. You can elaborate more? I mean, is this for the development, for the construction? What kind of powers will be given to these mayors?
Well, it will be to support provincial priorities of economic development, investment, and construction. And so it will certainly not be limited to housing supply, but some of the powers that were outlined were that the mayor can veto a motion, and then that there's also a reverse veto. If council has two-thirds of council want something, then they can cancel the mayor's veto. So there's checks and balances. It gives more tools for the mayor to be able to implement the agenda that was the will of voters.
Okay, Premier promised during his election campaign that they will build 1.5 million houses in next 10 years' time. Being a mayor, working very closely, do you think it's very aggressive, it's very ambitious plan, or it is possible? Because, of course, it's the need of the hour.
No, I think it's possible. Listen, Ontario is a destination of choice for much of Canada's new immigrants. The GTA is one of the most popular destinations, and we need to have housing supply not just to meet the growth that we have with our own population, but with newcomers coming to Canada. And part of the dream, the Canadian dream, is owning your own home, and so we can't have a lack of competition. You need to have an adequate housing supply, and for far too long there was a lack of competition. And so I do think the Premier's agenda is realistic. The new Associate Housing Minister, Michael Parsa, is someone that I've got confidence in. He's a real hard worker, and I know he will work very hard on the Premier's mandate that he's given him.
Okay, as you said, Brampton, Ontario is a hot favorite destination for the new immigrants. We have seen hundreds and thousands of students, international students, coming and settling in Brampton. Brampton is overcrowded at this moment. So, do you think there is a lack of coordination between the federal government, which has immigration policies, the provincial government, which has mandate of these private career colleges, and city? So, where is city involved in all this?
Well, Rajinder, one benefit that I have is that I've served at all three levels of government. And I think your assessment is right, that the different governments are in silos, where you've got the federal government that controls immigration, but the professional accreditation is, in terms of housing supply as well, that's all run by the province. And so I do think you need to have the levels of government talking to each other. I think it is misfortunate that you've got a ton of talent, a ton of credentials that aren't being recognized. I think we could do a lot better at integrating the talent that comes from immigration into our society, but you really need the branches of government working together more cohesively. And of course, municipalities right now are creatures of the province, and so the municipalities are not recognized in the Canadian Constitution. In the Canadian Constitution, it's only provincial and federal. Okay,
yesterday we had a survey of the Conservative Party members that if, they have to vote, whom they will vote. So the result came out that 42% are willing to vote for, or they want Pierre Poilievre to be the leader of the party. John Schray is quite behind. But on the other hand, we saw that only 16 or 70% of Canadians approve Pierre Poilievre as the next leader of the as the next prime minister of the country. So at this time, when Liberal Party or Liberal government is facing lots of crises, challenges, we can see what's going on at the airports. Inflation is out of control. So people are looking for a change in the country. I can tell you, being a media person, I talk to people every day. So they are looking for a change. But we were surprised to see that the new leader will have only 70% mandate of the Canadians. What do you have to say?
Well, I'm going to be focusing on municipal politics. I have very strong views in the federal arena, and I made those views heard in the spring. I just think the Conservative Party is not ready for the type of change that it needs to embark upon if they want to earn the confidence of a majority of Canadians. And I do think federal Liberals in Ottawa are probably very pleased at the prospect of Pierre Poilievre as their adversary. I'm sure they're gleeful at that prospect, but that's not for me to comment on anymore. My focus is going to be on putting Brampton in the best possible position.
Okay, and my last question before you go: you worked hard, you travel all around the country, signed hundreds and thousands of members for the party. But what is your desire now? If you have to, appeal to those people, for whom you will do that, or you will be silent on this?
Yeah, listen, I think if we had stayed in the race, we would have won the race based on our distribution of memberships. But right now, my focus is only going to be in Brampton. The party wasn't ready for the type of change that I believed was necessary. And so at the end of the day, if the party's not ready to change, they're not ready to change. And it will only be to the benefit of the Liberal Party of Canada if you have a Conservative Party that continues to want to revert back to the past.
Okay, 4 years ago when you decided to run for mayor of Brampton, I think the city was quite new for you, or this job was also new for you. So what you could achieve in those 4 years, what you could not, there are some controversies, many things. I think the time has come now. So we'll sit again and we'll talk about that later on, Mayor Brown. Anything you have to say at the end?
No, I look forward to that conversation. I'm very proud of the success we've had in the last 4 years, and with the new hospital, the med school, the tax freezes, the new bus station, the electrification of the buses, we got a ton of accomplishments. The new MDA campus, where there's the 700 science jobs, rocket science jobs with the Canadarm operations. So we've had a ton of success, but I'm looking to focusing on even more success in the next 4 years. I want Brampton to be the envy of communities across the country.
Okay, before you go, I just want to bring to your notice again, and I'm sure you must be much aware of the situation in Brampton, particularly the law and order situation. And a journalist was attacked brutally, and every other day there are robberies, carjacking. So the law and order situation is just out of control. We had Chief of Police of Toronto in studio, James Raymer, last week. Next week we are expecting Mr. Nishan Durappa here in the studio. But as a mayor, I would like to bring to your notice again, definitely, I think there are so many issues in Brampton. We talk about many other issues, but the most important issue is the law and order situation at the moment.
Well, good point, Rajinder. And, first of all, let me say about Jody Mann, I spoke to Chief Nish about that. They know who's behind this. They're going to get them. They're going to be arrested. And anyone that thinks they can get away with stuff like this, they are severely mistaken. There will be accountability for vicious attacks like that. In terms of the rise of crime throughout the GTA, it speaks to why we need to properly fund the police. And, Rajinder, I go to some of these regional council meetings, and it is a fight to get the police resources. And every year, I'm the person saying we need officers to be able to respond to the calls. And at some point, some of these regional councillors who always try to stop funding for the police needs to give their head a shake. We need to make sure we have police available to respond to every call. And right now, we have 5 officers for all appeal regions on auto thefts. We need to have 15. We need to make sure that the police have the tools to do their job. And I'm pretty clear about this, but I'm going to support Chief Nish's request to make sure that Peel Region catches up with the per capita police requirements that we need. We made some good progress under Chief Nish with the CCTV cameras, with the gun and gang funding, but we need to get the number of officers up. That's what
Chief James Raymer also told me last time when we interviewed him. This was his complaint also. So anyway, Mr. Brown, this is election time and we need to talk on many issues. So we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.